Hello, you're welcome to Let's Talk About It. My name is Flakkie, and Let's Talk About It is a contemporary Christian talk show. We talk about everything, and you can join us on social media, one way or the other, on Instagram mostly, and we look forward to having you as part of our audience. We want to learn from you, we want to hear about your experiences, and we'll have a great time together as we walk and talk about it. I can't believe we're in the second half of the year already, and we are actually done with the first month of the second half of the year. To God be the glory. This is Flakkie from Let's Talk About It, and this month of July we're going to be rounding up the month by talking about openness. Openness in all kinds of relationship. We're going to be looking at same-sex friendship. We're going to be looking at opposite-sex relationship. We're going to be looking at marriages, family, whatever you find yourself in. How open are you in relationship? Are you open? Are you shut down? Are you shut up? Has openness been something that you practiced or you're practicing right now? Do you practice openness in relationship, or are you the one that keeps quiet and just listens? And is there a time to listen? Is there a time to speak? What kind of relationships work more or work better? The ones where people speak all the time, or the ones where they are quiet and they keep things away? I'm hoping to hear from you. I'm getting loads and loads of comments already, and I know it's going to be an amazing conversation. How open are you? Is openness detrimental or is it beneficial? This is Flakkie from Let's Talk About It, and I can't wait to hear from you. God bless you. What is openness? And so when searching, so what is openness? Openness is the lack of secrecy. It's a lack of secrecy in relationship. It's lack of secrecy. I wrote down some points. Lack of restriction. So if I'm in a relationship with you, in a friendship with you, it means that there's no secrecy, there's no restriction, there's no concealment. There's no concealment. And we're frank. There's frankness as well. So that's what openness is: lack of restriction, no concealment, there's frankness. Openness to me is transparency. That's how I see openness. That's how I define openness by myself. Openness, transparency. Are we transparent between each other, before each other? And openness is also the willingness to try new things or new ideas or receive new ideas. So are you open to an idea? Are you open to trying something new? That's openness as well. But what we're talking about today is in relationships, not about new ideas or talking about experimenting in any way. It's about how do you deal with openness in relationship? What is openness? And so this is the way Let's Talk About It works. Let's Talk About It is a group of counselors. Every single person that has signed in has something to offer. Has something to offer. And the social media world has made it so easy for us that when we come together like this, you're able to say, you know what, I had an experience in this area, or I heard this, or something happened, and then we put our heads together, because the Bible says what? That there is safety in the multitude of godly counselors. And like I said, that's what Let's Talk About It is about. So openness, if you have anything to say, please, the chat is always open. You can go there, you can raise your hand, because Let's Talk About It is not about me lecturing you. I'm here to learn as well. It's not about me teaching you. It's about all of us getting together to share experiences. But while we are waiting for people to warm up, I don't even know how I'm going to do this now, because I have to read this message, and it might just take me offline, but you will still hear me. You will still hear me. I don't know if you'll be able to see me, but you would hear me. And please note what I'm reading. Somebody wrote to us when we had shared the topic for July, and this is what she said. And typically during the program, I always have my phone on me. People send, those that have numbers, that have my number, or somehow they're on our Instagram page, they get to send messages as well. But what we actually want is for you to send your message right here on Zoom, so that we can all share. All right? So let's go with this very quickly. I'm going to read a letter out that somebody wrote, and you're going to have to think about it. Do you have any counsel for this person? Have you experienced the same thing? How open are you in relationships? What makes you an open person? Or on the other hand, if you're not open, what has brought, why are you not open? What does openness mean to you? All right. Somebody is saying good evening to everybody. That's nice. All right, so just a minute. I'm moving this on now. Okay, this says, I was excited when I saw the title for this month's Let's Talk About It with Flakkie. Excited because it's something I'm dealing with right now. I have dealt with it in the past, and I feel I need help. So I don't keep feeling this way. I believe I'm a warm and loving person, and so the way I feel now, I think I need to be different. And you'll be able to help me out if I'm wrong. Let me just get to the point, Mrs. Flakkie. She calls me Mrs. Flakkie. My name is Uju, and I have, or should I say, had a friend who I have known for over 20 years. We met in the most unusual circumstance, but somehow we hit it off. And our families, as our husbands and our children, became friends as well. Even siblings got to know each other. I always call Lara and gist her, update her about everything in my life. Not because I'm a talkative, but rather because I thought we shared a lot in common and we loved each other like that. It didn't matter what the challenge or celebration was, I would call Lara. It's crazy, but this went on for close to 20 years, 2 decades. And then one night, it hit me like thunder out of nowhere that I had shared everything about my life I shared everything about my life, but I actually knew nothing about Lara. Okay, well, not nothing, but I actually knew just what the average person around her knew. Oh my goodness. I stayed up all night reliving nearly 20 years of our friendship like a movie. Lara knew everything about me: when I got pregnant for each of our children, quarrels with my husband, in-law issues, my immediate family, my extended family issues, my work palaver at Alausa, where I'm a director, desire to move abroad, my fears, my aspirations, everything. And it dawned on me, what did I know about Lara? Please don't laugh at me, because I mourned and cried and still do at the realization. I knew her family house, the address. I knew her children's schools when they were in Nigeria before they went to university in Canada. I knew everyday gists about other people, rolling on the floor laughing. She wrote that. She said, you will never believe how other people's gists can make you feel like you are close to somebody because the person is your gist partner, and yet you know nothing about them apart from what everybody else knows. I knew where she worked, but don't ask me what she did there. I never really knew what department she worked in, but I just knew where she worked and that she was doing great, you know. A friend or associate, I would say, asked me during the period I was going through the great revelation about one of her children, because she had run into him when her child got into she had run into her when her child got into Lara's daughter's university in Canada. It dawned on me right there that I never knew what exact school they were in Canada, nor the courses of their study. I was so embarrassed. I practically stuttered through the conversation. This is just so much. This is just so much for me. I realized that little things, medium things, all kinds of stuff just, finally dawned on me after 20 years. It was very painful. I was ashamed to tell my husband or other people that thought we were 5 and 6, like people say. It's been a few months now, and the COVID-19 lockdown really helped me get my self-esteem back. Yes, my self-esteem was violated. I felt unworthy of friendships. What bothers me now is that at 45, I do not want to spend the rest of my life shut in emotionally. I don't know if I can live with myself like that. I need help. Thank you. Did we get that? Did we get that? Hello?
They can all hear
coming
you.
in. Please, if you got the message, wow, okay, fantastic. Okay, you can all hear me. I can hear that. So please kindly activate your videos if you can, please. I'm trying to read messages out, but I'm sure they can read it as well. All right, so we've heard from Uju. We've heard from Uju now about her relationship with Lara. And I guess that many people have been so, that kind of a relationship as well. So do you have anything to say? What do you have to say about openness? Do you have an experience to share? That's why we're here. Like I said, I'm not a lecturer. I'm not about to teach you anything. We're going to find, navigate this space together. So let's talk about openness. If you have your hand, you can raise your hand. You can just indicate one way or the other that you need to speak. And then the moderator would unmute you. Thank you very much. Please don't wait for somebody else because our time is limited. We don't have the physical, time like that where we're together and then we can just waste time. Right now, we're on air. So if you have anything to say, you heard about Lara. Do you have anything to say about to Uju concerning this relationship? Because she seems to be very hurt and she doesn't want to spend the rest of her life at the age of 45 going on like that. Okay. Even if you're younger, have you experienced this before?
I think we have a hand raised from.
Right. Please, what? Okay.
Please,
when you're unmuted, introduce yourself and then please speak. Thank you.
Sarah, you're live. Can you unmute yourself? You can unmute yourself. Thank you.
Okay. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Praise the Lord. Sorry, I'm still church, but then
you're back in church, right?
Yes. I had a similar experience. I just hope maybe somehow the person may be on the show because I sent out the invite and I put it on my status too. The person actually saw it. So I hope she's online with us. Okay. We grew up together. We knew in deeper life as in our late teens, We didn't go to school together. She went to boarding school. I went to the. But whenever she came home for holiday, we were always together. She comes to visit. Then I was with my aunt when she was still in Nigeria, in VI. They were in neighbor close in VI. I was in somewhere off Ajola Odeko. So she comes to visit and her siblings. And I discovered that I was the one always opening up, saying things. Oh, this was what happened. Even when I started having relationship, as a young adult, I would tell her, oh, this brother said this to me. This brother is saying this brother is saying that. Even when I did my birthday, I think 25th birthday or thereabouts, I invited her, she came over. She knew virtually everything about me. There was once one of our neighbors where her mom used to sell. Her mom used to, she had a shop back then. So one of the neighbors to her mom called me and said, how old is your friend? I said, I don't know, but she knows how old you are. I said, of course, I have nothing to hide. She's my friend, so I opened up to her and everything. But what actually made me to pull back was 3 years ago, she got married, actually. And I had not seen her in a very long time. After I left, for school, finished school service and came back, we had not seen. So we speak on phone once a while. But I just said, let me go and pay a visit because I know their family house. The siblings, they know me. The parents know me. We're like sisters. So I got to our parent place that day. It was a Monday. Our younger sister actually was preparing to get married that weekend. So she had told me before time. When I saw her call, I knew she was going to tell me something. Oh, Auntie Sarah, I'm getting married. I was happy. So I just said, let me go and visit. So the Monday of the week that our younger sister was getting married, I went visiting. Lo and behold, by the time I got there, it was our introduction. She didn't tell me anything. I didn't know anything, nothing whatsoever. And I was busy praying for her. I was praying for her because it was as if, oh, Sarah, you didn't have problems. You always have people who admire you and say, okay, babe, I love you. Can we hang out? But in our own case, it's as if nothing was forthcoming. So I was busy. Okay, come and see this pastor. Come and see this person. Let's pray together. So when that thing happened, I just stumbled on her introduction. The thing broke me. I was crying, but the tears was from a broken heart. It was a mixed feeling. I was happy for her that she was preparing to get married, and at the same time, I was like, God, what did I do? Did I break any rule of friendship? What went wrong? So while I was asking myself those questions, something said to me, but she has always been like that. But I took a decision. As a result of what happened, I made a decision that when God eventually answers me and I'm getting married, I won't tell her. I just took that decision unconsciously. But one thing that also made me to feel bad after I took that decision was the fact that the mother genuinely prayed for me. The mother prayed for me from the depth of her heart, that she shared the testimony of how God answered her and everything. So she prayed for me, and I said, this woman has touched my heart, but I won't go back on my decision. So fast forward to last year when I got married, and seriously, yes,
sorry, you have to start getting to we're getting the story. I want you to get to where you are now, how you felt, how you dealt with it.
So I just took that decision, and sorry to say, I didn't tell her. She got to know on my status. I didn't know how to use status before. It was my husband that taught me. So she got to know, she saw the picture and called me and said, Coco, something has always said, you won't invite me for your wedding. So I said, well, I'm sorry, it just happened. It was a small get together and everything. So, but I'm still looking forward to a time where I'll have to invite her to tell her, babe, this was what you did, and I didn't like it. I'm sorry, I paid you back the other way, but on a good day, this is not me. It hurts, but I asked God for the grace not to take it too much to heart. It hurts me. I took it to heart for a while, but I had to ask God for grace to let it go. Like I said, I'm still looking for a time where I will call her to say, okay, this was what you did, and it really pained me. That's the point where I am right now. We still talk once in a while, on phone. We have not seen ourselves for the past 3 years now, but I hope that very soon God will help us. So openness in relationship is very, 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 very important, especially when you have someone that is like a covenant sister or a covenant brother to you. Openness is very, very important. It can mark a relationship or it can build a relationship, because the Bible says that there's a friend that sticks closer than a brother. If you have such a friend who value your relationship, I think you should place the same value also on that person by making it, come together and let the person know that, yes, I have a sister in this person and I have a friend in this person. That's my first experience I'd like to share. I have another one. If time permits, I will share. Thank you very much.
So much, Sarah. Thank you so much. And I'm glad to hear that you've moved from that point. But and I'm also happy that you're looking forward to a time when you can talk with her. But sharing your experience, I'm sure other people have something to share as well. Don't go away, stay right here. You might be able to share the second experience, because we'll get to the bottom of this. What's openness in relationship like, and why is this such a big deal? Anybody else? Hi, Atiola, I can see you.
Hi, Mabel. How are you doing?
Good. Are you speaking?
Yes,
Yes, I am.
Yes, please go.
Yeah, well, listening to Laura's story, my take on this is Ugo, to me, appears to be going through middle life crisis. It's not a big deal, honestly. They've been friends for 20 years. They're different personalities. Some people are open and chatty, which to me is how I would describe Ugo, that she's very chatty, she's very open, but her friend Lara appears to me to be very reserved, but that doesn't discount their friendship. They've been able to be friends for 20 years. And Ugo did say that she knows a lot about Lara's children's school. Is it a big deal that you don't know what your friend's child is studying in the university? I don't think it's a big deal. I have a very close friend that I've been friends with since Form 1, which was in 1980. She is very reserved, but I'm the chatty type. And give me a second. Okay. I'm the chatty type, and we just complement each other very well. My good friend knows a lot about me, almost every intimate thing about me, but I respect the fact that there are just some things about her that she's not open about, right? But it's not a big deal to me, and it shouldn't be a big deal. And I don't think Ugo should hold that against her friend of 20 years just because she had a reflective moment, especially during this COVID lockdown situation, that could be very, people are very emotional. It's a completely kind of way of life. A lot of people are deep thinking about issues, but take a deep breath and look back on your friendship. That's my message to Ugo, and let it ride. Let it ride. She's been a good friend of yours for 20 years, and you should look through your emotions at the moment, and do not allow that to affect 20 years friendship. That's my take on that.
Thank you so much, Yola. I want to reiterate on some points that you made. You said they complement each other. So maybe one is chatty and the other one is not, but they complement each other. So maybe that's something we need to look at, we need to think about, because talking to people is like, what, if I'm open and I'm very chatty, then I expect you to be the same. The temperaments might be different. Is that the reason why some people are not open? Because their temperaments are different? Or are there other reasons why they are not? Let's keep talking about it. Thank you so much, Tiola. Anybody else? She's spoken about herself, and she spoke about Lara and Uju as well. So you have something to share? Did you experience some kind of friction in your relationship with somebody? And then we're not talking about just friends. What about in marriage? In marriage, I will share something. There was a guy that's, at the gym, that was years ago, and one of us would be there. Then when you're done, just sit down and talk. So somehow we became friends, and I eventually met his wife. Very lovely woman, very, very lovely woman. But one day he said, Mabel, I wish you could be friends with my wife, because everything is the secret to her. And I said, what do you mean? He said, you know, come to the gym, you're very friendly, you talk to everybody. I said, but you don't know anything else about me. He said, yes, but I think that if somebody gets to know you, and they'll get to know more. He said, because for instance, my wife, and he was talking about his marriage now. He said his wife that at times he has to pull information. That's why he said it. He has to pull information from her. He has to ask, so what are you doing tomorrow? So I said she would just not say anything. And at that time, they had been married for like 15 or 17 years. I don't remember. So openness in relationship extends to marriage as well. Where does it stand in marriage? How open should you be? And then we're going to talk about courtship as well. How open should you be in courtship? So let's look at all angles of relationships and friendships, please. Thank you.
Hello, Ma. Can we all
Yes.
hear? Okay, please, if you're raising your hand, because we are recording, kindly activate your video so that we don't have like a blank. Thank you so much. I can see a hand. So I'm spotlighting the next person. Okay, sir. And kindly rename yourself from Galaxy A20, sir, so that we can address you properly. Thank you. Right, sir.
Okay. Can I go on?
Yes, you can.
All right. Thank you very much. I would like to talk about the aspect of marriage, openness in marriage.
Okay.
Um, I believe, like maybe I was saying, I strongly believe that our background plays a very important role on how open we are in our relationships. Um, some people are, for example, for me, I was raised in a polygamous home where everyone is a suspect, everyone is a potential enemy. So our parents will always, they are in their effort to be protective of us, from the dangers of the polygamous home. They've instilled in us like everyone is an enemy. So you don't tell people, when you are making progress. You don't tell people your plans. You don't tell people anything that's going on with you. You get. So some people grow up like that, and they carry that into their adult relationships, and it just natural. They just feel that there is danger in sharing their their progress with people. One happened to me recently, but because I understand that people are different. We have different backgrounds, we have different temperaments. This is a lady that we've been praying together, trusting God together for her to get married. And when God eventually did it, you know, I just saw it on Facebook, and I was like, wow, so it happened. And I didn't even bother to call or ask. I didn't take it to heart. It was nothing to me really, because I understand the fact that she probably that's just how she was brought up, because I have a similar background, so I understand. And I know people, I know some of my siblings that have not been able to get out of that, you know, secretive lifestyle, always trying to hide things, always trying to cover things up. Now in marriage, it is important that no matter the background, no matter your temperament, when you are married, if you trust someone enough to spend the rest of your life with them, you should be able to trust them with all your secrets. You should be able to trust them with anything and everything. And when I got married, my own, I don't think is I don't think is my temperament really. I just feel is maybe my male ego. I always try to fix things, without letting my wife know. I always try to, wriggle myself out of troubles. you know when I get into troubles, doing things behind her back. I always try to wriggle myself out of it without letting her know exactly what's going on. And most of the time, she will eventually be the one when Kasala burst. Eventually, she will be the one to help me out. She'll be the one to either give me wisdom or help me talk to someone. And I'll have just back. Why didn't I just tell her from the beginning? I always try to get my things done by myself. So sometimes that could be a reason too. That could be a factor into why people don't open up in their relationship, their background. Trying not to depend on people, try not to depend on people, because sometimes when you share stuff with people, they automatically think that you are asking them to help you solve it. And sometimes it's not so. Sometimes they are just sharing, just want to open up to someone. So some people will take it automatically to mean that you need help. And then they will put it upon themselves to help you solve the problem. And some people don't just want that. Some people don't want to depend on others for stuff like that. So in marriage, it's when it becomes, I have to consciously tell myself that, oh no, you have a wife for a reason. It's because you can't do it alone. That's why God gave you a wife. So when you want to do things, you should carry her along. It's still a progress. I'm still a work in progress. I'm not there yet. In sharing everything 100%. But I know it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do, and I'm working towards it. I'm working towards that. Sharing things with her, carrying her along in decision making and everything.
Thank you
That will be
so
all for me.
much. Thank you. I really appreciate your being here today, and I love the points that you made. Especially talk reiterating what I had said about the background. At times, people's backgrounds matter. People's backgrounds matter. Maybe that's why they don't open up. And then I like the fact that the polygamous setup is that everybody's a potential enemy, everybody's a suspect. So you have to protect yourself. You have to be there. But how do we get out of that mood? Because I ask myself, I'm like, do I want to spend my life, if I was in that situation, do I want to spend the rest of my life thinking everybody is an enemy? Would I really enjoy life at the end of the day? Like the gentleman just said, he's learning to open up. And I like the fact that he said that, meaning that he has identified that that's actually a problem in the relationship, but he's working on it and realizes that the reason why they are together. So I know I'm speaking to somebody in the marriage right now, in a marriage, saying, you know what, stop keeping everything to yourself, because there is a reason why there are two of you. Two heads are better, two good heads are better than one. Okay, anybody else has anything to say, please, about the letter from you or your personal, take on this? Okay, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Omolade.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I would like to say concerning Lara. I think our friend is Lara.
Yeah, the friend is Lara, and Uju wrote in.
Okay. I think maybe our friend does not know. Maybe she's not consciously doing it. So probably she should just call her and discuss with her the things that she has done to hurt her. She might not really be doing it consciously. She might just maybe be herself. She's just being herself. So maybe she should just call her and say, oh, this is the things that I noticed and all like that. I have my best friend. There are some things that she does not tell me. Then I tell her everything, and I should be able to know most things about her. So if I notice that maybe she's hiding something from me, I'll just ask her and tell her that, what's up, what's happening with this? And she will just let it out like that. So maybe there are some people like that. She should just discuss it with her. Then in relationship, I think openness is a must, because when you discover that maybe the other person is hiding something, it builds a kind of maybe distrust or something. So I just feel, left to me, since you're my partner, I feel I should just be able to tell you anything, whatever it is that is in my mind. My partner should be the first person I want to discuss it with, and I also want him to do the same thing, because I don't think he probably wants to do something and I'm hearing it for a third party. It really breaks my heart if someone I'm very close to or someone I open myself up to is doing something or is involved in something I'm hearing from a third party. So I feel openness is a must in a relationship. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Openness is a must in a relationship. I don't know about relationship with the opposite sex, right? All right. Oh, she's muted. Omolade, talking about relationship with the opposite sex. That's what you're talking about. Talking about your partner. Okay.
Yes.
It's a must. So you need to talk about everything and share everything, right? Okay. All right. Thank you so much. And Omalade said something, and she said she has a best friend, and when she doesn't share things with her, she just asks. She just asks her and say, "Oh, so why didn't you tell me this?" And I think that's the point that many of us never get to. Because, I might just feel she's not telling me because she's being secretive. But on the other hand, it might mean that she did not think about it or he did not think about it. Or that's just their makeup, and then you need to pull them in. Well, how many of us are ready to do that work? Put that work in and pull somebody in so that they can open up to you. The other part of it is this, talking about openness. Is it beneficial or detrimental? Can somebody talk about that? Is it beneficial or detrimental? As you said, Omalade says it's a must, but have people been open and gotten bits? So that means it's detrimental, or have they benefited from opening up? You have anything to share? And please, let's also remember that Uju is still right there. She's actually online here with us. She's not, her name is changed, of course. I didn't put the name as Uju. Well, let me read something. Remy says here, she said, marriage is a different ball game. Being open in marriage is a necessity. It's a necessity and shouldn't lead to a loss of your individuality. I like that. So openness does not have to lead to the loss of your individuality. You should be open in marriage. In marriage, be able to tell each other everything and talk about everything and still be yourself. And still be yourself. I like that. I'm trying to see, does anybody else have anything to say here? Okay, I think that's it.
Yeah.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Yinka. Talking about being open, I feel that being open in any kind of relationship would usually be mutually beneficial. And being secretive, on the other hand, can be detrimental to the relationships. Through the years, I think my take on that has been like that of the last speaker, that if you feel the other party is not being open with you, I think you should ask. That's part of the relationship. You shouldn't be afraid of asking that, why didn't you tell me this? Initially growing up, I think I've been hurt once or twice, and it was a very cozy relationship I had with a friend back then in school, and we've been together for so long, and we both went for youth call, and the first person I wanted to visit was her after I came back from Benue State. And I went all the way to Ibadan. And I told the mom I was coming. It was the days of Nightel. So I called the mom at work. I was coming to visit. And she said, no problem. They'll be expecting me, only for me to get to Ibadan. And I was told that, she traveled last month to UK to settle in UK. Why was I not told? At that point, I felt so betrayed. I felt violated, that's the word, because she knew every plan I had and she didn't tell me that. That apart, I learned from that. Fast forward 5-6 years later, she came back into Lagos and she saw me in traffic. She stopped me. She's home to do a proper wedding, and I planned a wedding with her. But the fact remains that I probably will not share some things with her again. The relationship never went back to how it was. I was happy she was getting, at the time I was planning her wedding with her, she had a son, and I planned her wedding. I wasn't even married. I wasn't engaged to be married. I planned her wedding with her, was at the wedding. She was happy. She went back to the UK, were in touch for a while, but I never really followed up on that friendship because I had already felt betrayed. But let me just quickly talk about marriage. let me talk about relationship and openness in marriage. When I married my husband, I've always been the extrovert. I've always known my husband to be a very private person. And it was okay by me. You know, this thing about opposites attracts and everything, that was what I loved about him when I married him. But he became a burden to me along the line, because he will not open his mouth and tell you what is going on. Vital information I need to know. You know, by the time he's telling you about it, it's probably too late. And you know, sometimes it takes a lot for me not to get angry, and I will ask him, why am I hearing this now? It could have helped us earlier if I'd known. And this is me that if I see any stray puppy or cat on the road, I will tell my husband whether, yes, Mabel, you know me. I will tell my husband when I get home. I will tell my friends the things that are going on around me. But you know, my husband, and I will tell you why it's detrimental. Because apparently I traveled and my husband had an incident that on his own he entered the hospital next door, and they told him that it looks like your heart is failing. You know, I came back. My husband did not tell me anything, but apparently he mentioned it to his sister, who happens to be my favorite in-law, and she has the same temperament as my husband. She didn't mention it to me. 8 months after, my husband had a massive heart attack. The story is for another day. You know, I thought we were treating something else until I took him into St. Nicholas, and we thought we were in there for something different. Then on the x-ray table, just trying to do the routine medical checks, he had another heart attack. You know, and that was when they told me that, this must have been on for so long. Then it was while we were in the US for the heart surgery that he now eventually told me that, hey, you know, about 8 months ago, that the doctor actually told me that my heart was failing. I honestly, I think I feel safe here talking about this, and he knows how I feel.
Yes.
Because I felt betrayed. Because at the end of the day, it wasn't the sister that was taking him around. I was the one. It wasn't the sister raising money to take care of him. I was the one.
Yes.
You know, this was information that if I had known, I probably would have been able to nip it in the bud and plan better for his medical care. But we couldn't. So the glory of God, you know, is getting better. But something shifted in that relationship. I can't lie about it. Something shifted. It shifted. Now I find out that I have issues. I'm very open. And the first point of call is to talk to him about it. And I find that I'm talking to my children more. I'm talking to my children more. And it shouldn't be so.
Yes, I agree.
It shouldn't be so. Let me just stop there.
Thank you so much for sharing, heartfelt, and he will get better by the special grace of God.
Amen.
He will. He will. You're an amazing woman, and you've done well. But you know, let's get to the point. She said so many things, and that's what Let's Talk About It is: sharing details, sharing information about yourself, so that somebody else can learn. The first thing I want to take away from that is, you know, holding back in marriage. We have to get to the point what you think is important to yourself, because you think is important, that matters. Please, let's hear that clearly. It's not what's important, but if it matters to your spouse, and over these years, or if it's a young marriage, you're still developing in the marriage, or if you're married for, you should know what matters to that person, and you should share it. And then crucial information like medical conditions, those things you can't even hold back. Because at the end of the day, it's the spouse that's going to bear the brunt for care, brunt for everything. So please, if you are on here and you know somebody, let's share. The other point that she raised is many times, and I've heard so many women talk about this, and I wish we had more men, online. Women naturally are more, they're more chatty, where we talk more, we express ourselves more. But what happens is that when they consist in saying doesn't matter or children, and that's not the will of God, just like our sister said, that's not the will of God. The relationship is supposed to be you and your husband and then the children. But many times men make the mistake of thinking, well, it's just a woman, she's just talking, she's just yakking away, But if you pay attention to those things, you might actually be saving your marriage. What matters to your spouse, long and short of it, is not what matters to you. Be you female, be you male. What does your spouse deem as important? Is it important to them to know what you ate for lunch because you're not at home? I remember I was saying this, I said this to my husband one time. I said, you know what? I have an uncle that died because he refused to tell his spouse, he refused to tell his wife, he just thought it was no big deal. He would step out of the house and he would not say where he was going. He just thought, what's the big deal? I be accountable to a woman all the time. And when he got killed by armed robbers, and they put his body in the trunk of the car and drove him somewhere, dumped him there, and they were searching for him for days. Nobody knew where he was. Who knows? Maybe if he had alerted his wife and said, hey, babe, I'm going here, or this is what I'm doing, they would have been able to trace him. He's gone now. He can't defend himself. Well, what does it pay? What does it mean to be accountable? Nothing. To your spouse, open up. Let's speak up. So many people have been saved because they shared information with their spouses. She talked about friendship as well. And, I actually identify with what she was saying, that, it will shift. The relationship will shift. If, for instance, like she made a trip all the way from where she was coming from, all the way to Ibadan. That means she took the risk of getting into a car, driving all the way there, because she was not in Ibadan from what she said. And even if she was in Ibadan, it was still, she was expending herself only to get there and hear that the person had traveled. That was a lot. That was a lot. And, we're talking about people that are open and people that are shut up. They're shut up inside themselves. I know there's a balance. And I know that we should make excuse for each other. But the people that are shut up like that too, maybe they should open up if they have people in their lives that require that. Friendship is both ways. It's not what you want alone. It's not all about you. It's about the other person as well. That's my take from all that she has said. Thank you so much for sharing again. Okay, I read. There's time to talk and there's time to be silent. And some people would kill your dreams and plans if they know everything. So I'll come to that, because you have to know who you're talking to. You have to figure out who you're talking to. I don't believe that you should just go on the streets or you just have friendships and you just begin to talk about everything to everyone. But we're talking about close relationships now. How close are you? What are the expectations of your relationship? I think one of the things I have learned over time is to determine what the expectation of that relationship is. What does this person think our relationship is about? I was I think I'm still going to go back to read some of the chat, but there's a time that I was going through, something like what our sister, just talked about, and a bit of, what Uju shared as well. And I was really hurt. I was really hurt because I felt like, wow, I put myself out there. I speak to you, you know everything about me. And then it just dawned on me, like, I don't even know jack about you. There are major things in your life that I don't know about. But you know what it did? Over time, I retraced my steps. Initially, I wouldn't lie because we're all here and I just want us. So if you're going through that, don't feel condemned and don't feel like you can't retrace your steps. Initially, I was really, really hurt. But, I have the house of God. It has no place in your relationship into that relationship with that particular person because they had hurt me so much because I felt I put myself out there and they hurt me by not being out there with me. But what was my retracing point? I realized that the level of friendship that I desired was different from what they wanted. Many times you give the friendship that you think the person wants. So if you're in a situation, you're in a position where, oh, you want a friend, you want a buddy. Like I always tell people, I'm looking for that, Oprah and Gail relationship where we can celebrate together, where even if I'm a billionaire, you can still celebrate me. And if you're a billionaire, I can celebrate you. That's beautiful friendship. But not everybody can get there. And so I had to realize that you know what? Instead of being bitter, instead of being mad, instead of being upset, you retrace your steps. You move back. Otherwise, bitterness will set in. And at the end of the day, bitterness hurts you and not the person because they're living their life. Everything that they're doing, they're oblivious of your pain. I'm sure I'm talking to somebody now. They don't care because they do not know what they have done. And so I retraced my steps and I asked God to help me. I asked God to help me. That, Father, let me give the level of friendship that she desires. I was in a place where I needed the kind of friendship I was given. I had had certain transitions in my life, and I wanted somebody to be there with me, somebody to be in my boat, someone that I will call in the middle about everything. I didn't want the friend I'll talk to about clothes only. I didn't want the friend that I'll talk to about Jesus only. I didn't want the friend I'll talk to about husband only or friend. I wanted everything in this one person. And I realized that might have been a burden on her because she wasn't able to carry that load. So I had to ask God to help me forgive her, and I retraced my steps. And now I'm in a place where I can be friends with her, but I no longer share all that information with her because I realized that maybe that's not what she wants. So if something happens to me now, that's not the person I'm going to share it with because she's not in that place. Why am I sharing this? I'm saying this because we say, let's talk about is a contemporary Christian talk show where we talk about everything. We talk about everything so that at the end of this life, we get that ultimate crown and we make it to heaven. If there's anger, if there's bitterness, we can't make it there. So how do we resolve it? By talking. I retraced my steps. I had to think, yes, was I pained? Very, very pained. But I retraced my steps. I'm not in that space anymore. Now I'm happy. If she doesn't say anything to me for days, for months, that's fine. It means that the level of friendship that she wants. Key thing, what level of friendship does this person want from you so that you don't burden them with your load? So you don't burden them with your load. I'm going back to the chat because I'm getting lots of stuff here. The level of maturity of your spouse will also affect your openness. That's what courtship is supposed to do anyway. That's what it's supposed to be. Okay, so culture and religion are factors as well, definitely. Daddy Jeff says, my grandpa told me some time ago, he said, my son, weak people express everything about them, but strong people show what they have. Talk less and act more. Maybe Daddy Jeff has to expatiate on that point because I don't get it clearly. I don't get that clearly. So we're going to have to, sorry, let me read through the chat, then would unmute him. Hopefully he can explain to us what he means. You know, what does that mean? Christina says, diet could have changed. Oh yeah, she's talking about the health case. Yes, and that's about opening up to your spouse about your health condition. Don't keep it to yourself. Please open up. Austin says, Genesis 2:25 is the model on how relationships in marriage should be. Total openness in all things and nothing less. That means naked and not ashamed. I'm going to come back to that point. Is it every single husband or wife that can deal with that kind of nakedness? No wonder the Bible would have no record where Adam and Eve were divorced. Because they declared they cleave to God's blue. But if she keeps things away from me, then it won't work. Even in relationship, let's get this. You are who you are, but you can learn. OBS says, if I have to ask a feet to get tired of asking, you know what? I have to keep asking you. And so what happened? So what did you do? How did you do this? Well, it brings me back to that point. What level of friendship does that person want with you? Does that person desire the level of friendship that you're offering? I'm hoping that you will go back and think about it and realize that, you know what? Maybe that's not the kind of friendship that she wants. Maybe she wants the kind of friendship that you just talk about certain things and you leave it off. And then both of you will have peace. Going back to the chat, let me just get easy. But I want you guys to talk. Stop making me read things. Hobby used to do that too, but I was always on his case. In marriage, I think it's different. But guess what? Even in marriage, people get tired. People get tired. Accountability is key. No one is monitoring you, but hey, he knows we have been married for 24 years now. Praise the Lord. I like that. I like that. Okay, I'm going down. Let me be the kind of friend that my friends desire. That's right. Be that kind of friend. If the person doesn't want too much gist. Thank you so much. Someone just told me she can be my friend. Thank you so much for that. I like that. I like that. And you know, the truth is that I realized that it took, you know, personal now, it took going through certain heartbreaks in relationship with friends of the same sex. I mean, friends, just, you know, friends, for me to realize that there are actually people out there that desire to be your friend and would comfortably fit into the mold. So why are you straining somebody else when there's someone who wants the kind of friendship that you're willing to offer? Many times we don't think about it. We start getting mad at the person. But there's somebody that has called. Just, you know, ask God to help you forgive, let go, and ask God to bring someone into your life that you can be open with and you will enjoy yourself better. That person that can gist about stupid things and serious things and both of you on the same level. God is able to do that. I have learned that. I have learned that, and I have learned forgiveness and letting go as well. This chat people, don't stop chatting. You need to talk. You need to unmute yourselves and talk. You need to unmute yourselves and talk. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Diola. Thank you. Relationship, friendship should be defined. Some people don't regard you the same way you regard them. Clearly, to me, absolute openness is a no-no in a relationship. But in marriage, there should be a limit. Okay. Well, I want someone to explain that to us. All right, I'm leaving this now, and then we're moving on to the next person that wants to talk. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much for talking. All right, I see Ruthie here as well. Thank you. All right.
Okay, Toba, you're spotlighted. You can talk now.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Toba from Ilorin here. This is a very interesting conversation, and I would love to say, first of all, that going into a friendship relationship, first thing I think you have to understand is understand the person, because it takes two to be a friend, right? Rather. So understand the kind of person you claim to be in a friendly relationship with, because personality differs. Some people, like it has been stated earlier, are reserved and they don't talk much. It might be as a result of where they grew up. It must be as a result of their personal belief or experience, past experience. Probably they used to be the chatty type, opening up to everyone, but they have been burned. So there are several reasons why some don't speak out. So before you go on and blame or get annoyed with your friends because they don't open up or something, you have to first of all understand if they are the type, or if their personality is the type that talks.
Yes.
Because some will not talk. Mm-hmm. Like, for example, I've noticed that males, like guys generally, they learn to process, or will learn to process stuffs. They only speak out when they have solutions to their problem. But when they are going through difficulties, you see them sitting down calmly, processing, looking for solution everywhere in their mind. But when they hit the solution, that's when you see them come out. You hardly see them talking about their problems. So take, for example, if you are in the, because we have male and female that are best friends, not in a romantic relationship now. So if you are in a friendship with someone like that, you will just continue to be annoyed that this person is not talking to me. So like this case of Uju and Lara that was first mentioned, I think a lot of these things, these kind of situations will have been saved or will have been prevented if the parties involved actually took time to understand each other. Don't just bump of people being friends with them, just not understanding them, and you think everybody has to be like you. Everybody cannot be like you. We are all different. We are raised differently. So that's that about friendship. But in marriage, it is very necessary. In fact, starting from courtship, because the Bible says that can two work together except they agree. There are some situations that we have to agree together in prayer. So if I don't know what you are thinking, or you don't know what I'm thinking, or what I'm passing through, how do we agree together in prayer? It's very difficult. And then when you talk about marriage, I think there will be mutual goals. There will be mutual goals, things that you want to achieve, or goals that you set ahead. So if everybody is operating differently and you don't know what I'm thinking, you don't know what I'm going through, you don't know my plans, then it will be very difficult to have mutual goals and to achieve them. So in marriage is a different ballgame. It's just necessary to be open. It's very necessary to be open. So I think in that situation, it is beneficial to be open to your spouse or to your husband or wife to be. It is very important. I think that's all I have to say for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. I didn't get the name. What's the name, sir? Oh, he's gone. I didn't get the name, but thank you.
Toba.
All right, Toba, thank you so much for being here, taking time to be with the great points that he made. Just, that's it. Deal with it. Deal with it. Relationships. You have they are not opening up. I remember somebody was talking about relationship a long time ago, and said, what if God brought you into somebody's life to help them heal? So here's this friend. Here's this friend that you're complaining about. Oh, he doesn't talk, he doesn't share, or she doesn't talk, she doesn't do this. What if something had happened to them in the past? And the reason brought you into their life so that there can be a difference. Are you able to wait through, at least check it out, instead of putting the blame on the other person? Are you able to wait it through and say, you know what, maybe this person, it's an issue. It's an issue because of what, they have gone through. Are you able to help somebody overcome their past? Anybody else has anything to say? Thank you so much, Toba. Thank you. That was well said indeed. That was well said. And for everybody that has spoken today, we've gotten so much. So much. So much. All right. Anybody else? Yeah, somebody's on mute. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Okay, an interesting topic, and somehow I found myself in that position as well. My friend, I was both planning her birthday, and when on the date, I was supposed to acquire rehearsal, so I couldn't go for the birthday. I didn't want to acquire rehearsal, and she had made other plans without even telling me, and I got to see pictures. I was even thinking bad and apologizing that, oh, sorry that I couldn't come to your birthday, sorry that I missed it and all, not knowing that she actually had a swell time to enjoy herself and didn't even know that I was not there. I felt really, 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 really bad. But I didn't talk to her for a while. I mean, I'm like, what did I do? Am I like, why? And we have been planning all this all along and all of this. Okay, we're from our dad in school then. Okay, so when daddy sends the money, we go to this place, we buy that, and daddy sends the money, and wow, just do stuff for me. Okay, but I'm that kind of person that she actually asked me how I can ask me how am I, and I give you I'm fine. Whereas deep down I am not fine, but I don't think that you are going to be able to handle my openness. Like, because for me, being open means I'm being vulnerable to you, and not everybody can handle it. I don't want to say, okay, today I might be struggling with something, I want to open up, and I don't want to see you the next day when I've moved up from that, and you are still, treating me like somebody that, oh, she's still struggling with it. I struggled with it. I've moved on. You move on with me, not trying to set me back because of the information that you have. So sometimes people don't know how to handle openness. They don't know how to handle vulnerability. But I wrote ask deliberately. My friendship with my friend now, I realized that I was in different mental zone than she was. So now she's now the one always calling me. She's now the one always saying, how are you? How these days I miss our friendship. I don't have the time to constantly talk to her now. But she's the one that has the time. She's always saying, I'm sorry, can I talk to you now? Are you free? And then really I'm actually not free. But I realized that being the best version of yourself, the best friend you can be, sending the message that anytime you want to talk, I'm always there. Anytime you want to say anything, even if at the end of the day you don't still find me worthy to share your opinions with. You know one thing, that people are always talking. They're always talking to somebody. They're always saying something. They may not just be you, and that can be very painful. But people are always talking. So I think we need to find a way to, ask our friends deliberately. So you can just talk, and you forget that, okay, I'm actually talking to somebody. Let me pause and genuinely ask, are you fine? Have you eaten? She said, I've not eaten. Why? I'm not hungry. I've not eaten something. Like, what have you not eaten? Let's be intentional about asking, like, okay, why have you not eaten? Let's probe more, not just the surface answer. I think that's okay. Another thing, sometimes we are very dismissive of what people say. So you say that maybe, okay, for someone like me that I don't really get to talk. When I'm not trying to talk and I tell you something and you just wave it up like it's nothing, and I'm like, oh, you don't want me to tell you everything about myself. Like that's not even going to happen at all. So I just give you one information and just like, I bet just is a normal thing. But to me, that's really a normal thing. So it's important that we are not dismissive of information, no matter how minute. I think it sends a signal, it sends the message that I'm actually interested about the progress. I'm interested about our friendship. And I think what I wrote here is, okay, before I come to sometimes, like with me and my friend, I was in a different mental zone that she was. I mean, she was still a very daddy's girl. Me, their parents so I was a bit more exposed than she was. So one thing I was able to understand before your friend or anybody, I can't talk about marriage. I'm not married. I'm not even close to it yet. You know, before we get to that place, don't let's be judgmental of other person's stage in life or phase in life. So if someone is just growing, they cannot understand when you're talking about certain realities in life. So while they are still in the process of realizing the truth or come to the full reality of the truth about life, don't be judgmental about it. I think that's one thing I've tried to do. So I don't get upset. Like, girl, don't doing this. Like, grow up. Don't grow up overnight. And even me sometimes when people are talking, I'm like, I don't understand what you're saying. But one thing they always say, okay, don't worry, you understand. So before I get to that stage, let me just know that I can always come back to you. And in the end, when I now realize what you have been saying for 2 years, I don't want to hear, I've been telling you all these days, that's what I've been telling you. So maybe I don't want to hear. You know, okay, I now realize what you have been saying. Then you now go back and say, I told you this 2 days ago, 3 years ago. Not that I told you now, look at what you have done. So I mean, it's just important that we always send that message that, okay, and for Uju, I think she should just talk to Lara and let her know that, okay, I'm sorry I've not been the best friend or the best person that I should have been to you. I just realized in recent that I really don't know so much about you, and be open and show a genuineness and try to say, okay, so this ask question. So you realize I don't know this about her, I don't know that about her. So write it down and you can have a way forward from there. Because I don't know your school, your daughter's, your children's school, what they do, what exactly you do at work. So I can match the things you really want to know about her. If you have to like pen it down, so you also don't forget. I think that's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing. Thank you so much. She said be intentional. Be intentional. And that's reality. Friendship has to be intentional. Many of us get into friendship one way or the other. It's not like we are purposed to become friends. A friend of mine was just telling me that, you know, we've been friends for over 40 years because we're like babies, you know, when we met, you know, and she's right. And I love her so much. But guess what? We don't get to talk every day, but we know that we have each other's back, no matter what happens. So at times, it's not about sharing everything every day. It's about knowing who has your back. Have you thought about that? Does that person have your back, even if you don't share every detail every day? Does that person have your back? At times, that's what you need to look at and say, okay, yeah, maybe we don't share everything every day, but does she have my back? But somebody wrote in and said, sorry, this is on WhatsApp now, so I have to read this out. He said, Mabel, you know, I'm one of those that went into marriage. I'm one of those that went into marriage with a closed mind. I'm one of those that went to marriage with a closed mind. And so I never shared everything with my spouse. I just thought, you know, the needful needed to be shared. He said, but now it's over 20 years and I see that it's the opposite now. I want to know everything about her and she doesn't care to speak anymore. I've learned my lesson, but is it too late? So that's from my friend. I'm going to call him Yusuf, okay? So my friend says that when they got married, he didn't care to share much. But now they've married for over 20 years. And now he wants the information, he wants the sharing. But his wife is like, she's done with that. She doesn't care to share anymore. Share you didn't want to share before, Abi. And so now she doesn't care. He says, is it really over that? Can we redeem it? How can he go about it? If you have any counsel for my friend Yusuf as well, we're talking about openness in marriage now. How can he redeem? How can he redeem the time? How can he redeem the time? Openness. Somebody else said I should read the letter again that was written. So please give me a few minutes. I'm going to be switching back to read Uju and Lara's letter. Okay, so we got this. I'm going to go as fast as I can. I was excited when I saw the title for this month's Let's Talk About It with Flakkie. Excited because it's something I am dealing with right now. I have dealt with it in the past, and I feel I need help, so I don't keep feeling this way. I believe I'm a warm and loving person, and so the way I feel now, I think I need to be different. Let me just go to the point, Mrs. Flakkie. My name is Uju, and I have, or should I say, had a friend who I have known for over 20 years. We met in the most unusual circumstance, but somehow we hit off. And our families, that's husbands and children and even siblings, became friends as well. I would always call Lara and gist her, update about everything in my life, not because I'm talkative, but rather because I thought we shared so much in common and we loved each other like that. It didn't matter what the challenge or celebration was, I would call Lara. It's crazy, but this went on for close to 2 decades. That's 20 years. And then one night, it hit me like thunder out of nowhere that I shared everything about my life, and I actually knew about what I actually knew about Lara was just what the average person around her knew. Oh my goodness. I stayed up all night. Lara knew everything. Lara knew everything when I in-law issues, my family issues, my work palaver at Alausa, where I'm a director, desire to move abroad, fears, aspirations, everything. She wrote that in capital letters. What did I know about Lara? Please don't laugh at me, because I mourned and cried, and I still do at the realization. I knew her home and family address, her children's schools when they were in Nigeria before they went to university in Canada, everyday gists about other people. And then in brackets, she says, rolling on the floor. You will never believe how other people's gists can make you feel like you are close to someone just because you are gist partners. And the bracket is closed now. I knew where she worked, but don't even ask me what she did there. I don't know. A mutual friend or associate, I would say, asked me during the period I was going through the great reveal about one of her children, because she had run into her when her child got into Lara's daughter's school. It dawned on me right there that I neither knew what exact school her children were in Canada, nor the courses of study. I was so embarrassed for someone whom I thought I shared so much with. I practically stuttered through that conversation. There is just so much. Little, medium, huge stuff that finally dawned on me after 20 years. It was painful. I was ashamed to tell my husband and other people who thought we were 5 and 6, like they say. It's been a few months now, and the COVID-19 lockdown really helped me get my self-esteem back. Yes, my esteem was violated. I felt unworthy of friendships. What bothers me now is that at 45 years of age, I do not want to spend the rest of my life shut in emotionally. I don't know if I can live with myself like that. I need help. Thanks. So that's the recap of the letter again. People have spoken, but like I always say, it's not just about that letter that the person wrote, or about that person that shares an experience. It's about all the experiences that we have shared here today. And we have shared so much. I need to go back to the chat. So I've reread the letter, and I'm going to be going back to the chat for a few minutes. Okay? Somebody says, your friend Yusuf just needs to continue to be warm and try as much to tell her how hurtful it is and how he wants to know more. Okay. How hurtful it is. I can imagine what she would say. She would say something, you know how women, she say, when I wanted to talk, you did not want to talk. I beg. But God will help us. God will help us because women have amazing memories. Christina says, I feel that the effort needed to make it better. I feel that the effort needed to make it better, the man may not do it, which then makes it seem unredeemable. And it's true. You know, many times in relationships, when somebody is hurt, the other person might not be willing to do all that it takes to get that relationship to where it is. I love that point. Are you willing? So I'm going to ask my friend Yusuf, are you willing to do all it takes to get that relationship to where you want it to be? Are you willing to put all that work in? And that's not just to Yusuf alone, it's to everybody here. Are you, ask yourself, if you're in a damaged relationship, are you willing to put in the work? Are you willing to put in the work? Or are you going to sit on the high horse and say, now at least I've repented, so it means that the other person should just come around? I don't think so. I think you need to put the work into that relationship. You need to put the work into the relationship. Nedu says some people will still not open up about their expectations, desires, and fantasies that they hope to be fulfilled about in marriage. So they will not be labeled unreligious. I do not know what that means. Why would they be unreligious? Can you talk to us? If you want to be unmuted, please let us know. Let us know. Let us know. Oh, okay. Thank you, Sioma. I see you here. He said the interpretation of openness can be different by generation. We're not our parents, and that is so true. Openness can be so different. I know somebody spoke about the polygamous family, and that's a lot of our parents' generation, and even some of our generation, and then even the younger ones. But you won't find so many of the teenagers having that same experience. Somebody else is coming on. Thank you for being here. What's your name and please your contribution?
You're muted, please.
You're muted.
There she is.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, so I just want to share this about an experience I had with a friend a couple of years back. I had this friend, because of my kind of person, my temperament, I'm a sanguine, I'm an open person, at the same time kind of strict. So she's this kind of person, she's a melancholy choleric, which I know quite all right. I liked her because, first of all, we so much had this similar face. We looked at, like, if you see us, you even convince us for, like, being twin because of the resemblance. And we went to same junior secondary school in Osborne. So because of that relationship, I didn't take time to study Esther. After a long time, we reunited. So Esther was this kind of person that I opened up literally everything. I so much loved Esther that I did something to my older brother that my brother told me that year that he will never forgive me. The last meat we had on the pot, I gave it to Esther because of the love I had for this girl. And my brother told me, oh, I choose a friend over him. He will never forgive me. So something then happened. Our friendship continued. I opened up to Esther. Anything I do, the business I was doing then, I opened up to Esther. And behind Esther was this kind of person. I didn't know that Esther was an opportunist, using me to, let's say, get friends. Due to my kind of person, she will post my photo. That was when the Instagram came in newly. She will post my photos, cousin, this and all that. And she had this male friend of hers that I knew as well. So they will go out, and unknown to me, that one was always buying things, probably wristwatch or gifts for me. And Esther never remitted anyone to me. So something happened. We lost contact, and we actually broke up the friendship because of my character. I couldn't cope again. So I reunited again with Esther. And I realized that Esther was just whom she is. I knew the kind of person she is. She's an opportunist. So when I knew that about her, this was my kind of soft attack here. I was just like, okay, it's not a problem. I'll still manage her. So after we separated, finally, that our main friend, something happened. We met each other some place. And the guy opened up to me, like, what happened? Why did you and Esther break up and others? I opened up to him. He was like, did you receive all the gifts I gave to Esther through you? I was like, wow. I said, Esther never gave me anything. So guess I didn't mention any things he bought for me, the wristwatch, the gifts he gave Esther to give me. Perhaps Esther never remitted any of those gifts. So what I want to make of this is that you should know the person you're opening up to. Some people see you as a competition. It has happened to me, even of reason. Some people see you as a competition. Opening up to people, probably because of your kind of person. If you're this kind of person, you open up to people. Don't just open up to just anyone. Some people see you as a competition. Some see you, some people, they are opportunists. They just want to use you and get what they want. And then another friend I had, a young lady, which age-wise, I'm older than her. First of all, I studied Elizabeth. That's her real name. Elizabeth is a phlegmatic. So knowing that Elizabeth is a phlegmatic, very quiet person. In fact, I stayed with Elizabeth at school for a month. That was the first time in my life staying with a lady, we never had issues. Like we never exchanged words together. And I was so happy because Elizabeth is this kind of person. Even when you are killing her, Elizabeth would just be quiet. So what I did was I started studying the kind of person she was. When I offend her, I apologize. And I know kind of, she doesn't just smile easy like I do. So I know how to tickle her. I know how to get her. So understanding the kind of, whenever I want to get information from Elizabeth, probably personal information, there were some things she opened up to me about that I knew ordinarily she wouldn't just open up to anybody. Whenever I want to get information to her, I divulge mine to some extent, so she divulge hers more. So I get to get more information from her. Not that I want to use it to do anything, but just to know a little bit about her. But whenever I just open small for her, she will open more to me because of the kind of person she is. So I just want to just encourage whoever is having a challenge with his or her friend. Some people, you will think they don't open up. First of all, just get to know, understand that person, understand that temperament. If you're a sanguine and you're having a sanguine friend, hey, it's a problem. I've tried it. I don't really have a sanguine lady as a friend because I have tested and I never liked the outcome.
It's a clash.
I can't really have a melancholy as a close friend because I know that kind of person. So I prefer a phlegmatic or a melancholy sanguine as a friend. Someone that I know that when I share, they too, they can share. So my own point here is study the person you are opening up to as to avoid problem. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ruthie. Thank you so much. And that's reality. Study the person. Study the person you're in relationship with so that you don't get hurt and you do not get, maybe not the word is not sidelined, but you don't put yourself in a situation where you're dealing with a lot of bitterness. The most important part of it is that friendship is not supposed to be tedious in that manner. Friendship is not supposed to be tedious. It's supposed to be something that you enjoy. Yes, you can have times where you have issues or you have stuff going on, but typically a relationship that is consistently read with just, issues, you need to step back and check, is this where I'm supposed to be? Are we supposed to be friends? Are we supposed to be friends? And it doesn't mean you have to be enemies, not at all. But you can check it out and ask yourself, all right, so I have some people want to talk right now. Thank you so much for tuning in. The sun is, thank you. Looking forward to hear from both of you at the same time. Let's see how you do this. Please, can you unmute them?
Okay.
I'm here for family support. Well done, sis.
Very, very interesting session. Let me quickly say hello to my friend, Yinka, Almona, Diola, Diemi, nice to see you, and many others. I think she has left. Okay. Anyway, there's so much to say, and I'll try not to say much so that other people can talk. But if we go back, good evening, everybody. If we go back to the story of Lara and Uju, I mean, it's a very interesting story. And what I can say up front is, this is a relationship of about 20 years or plus. And I would say that for Uju is a more chatty, friendly one, if I remember. Yeah. The question I will ask Uju is it a relationship she's ready to walk away from? Because this is friendship, two ladies, as opposed to marriage. If she's not ready to walk away from that relationship, which I think she's not, because she's hurt, it looks like it's something she doesn't mind, she wouldn't mind reworking, and that's what I would advise, is to communicate with Lara. Like somebody said earlier, I think it was Sarah. Open discussion if she's not ready to let go. And sometimes we second guess relationships, friends. You assume this is what is going on, whereas you have not checked. She needs to have a round the table discussion with Lara and let her know exactly how she feels about the whole thing. If she knows she wants to sustain or maintain that relationship, she might just be surprised. Lara might have other reasons. Either it could be trust. She could have had her fingers burnt before, or she might think Uju talks too much and she's not very sure that if she says so much to her, maybe maybe Uju might use some of the information against her. You might just not be sure. So I would encourage open, communication. If she does that and that doesn't work, for example, if she gets a negative response, then that's how I am. Especially if Uju knows that what she's not telling her, she's telling other people. There's a problem in that relationship. And I'm a bit surprised because this is a relationship, it's not a young relationship. 20 years is a lot of time to invest in a relationship, and you're not getting the right returns on your investment in that relationship. So if you want to continue to invest, there has to be a negotiation. There has to be a win-win situation. You have to trade. You have to talk and talk. My first point there would be talking. Hear her out. Then from the response, decide whether you're comfortable with that and you're ready to make this relationship work or not. That's what I'll say in summary for her. And then I'll quickly go to the Yusuf case as well. That's the guy who has the wife, he hadn't been talking to the wife that much. I think that was about 20 years of marriage as well. And now he's ready to start talking and he's asking, is it too late? Unlike a relationship that is friendship, you can decide, I don't want to be your friend anymore. And we do that from time to time. You can decide, I just want to slow down. You can decide, I don't want to open this part of my life to this person. But for marriage, it's a different ballgame. Yes. Openness is encouraged. And my husband and I, of about 25 years, to the glory of God, would always say that openness, you can't go wrong. You can go wrong, but if you weigh both, you're likely to go right than go wrong. So it's not a relationship that Yusuf can walk away from. And he has to admit the fact that he has obviously done something wrong to hurt the wife. And he's coming to the table with that, I'm sorry, it hasn't been how you wanted it to be. But I'm ready to play my cards straight now. So just like a relationship that has been very, very juicy, they've been talking very well for 20 years, that relationship can change back and become sour. The same way, a relationship that has been sour can come back and become very fresh, very new, very sweet. So I would encourage Yusuf to go back in humility and say, come, my eyes have just opened, let's do this thing. And he has to be deliberate and intentional about it. He has to buy back that love or that communication or that relationship. He's going back to say, you know what, I want this thing to work. I'm sorry, I'm all ears. He has to now begin to give her the enabling environment, because if a woman knows that every time I talk to you, I'm not getting the response. You're listening, but you're not listening. You're judging me or you're giving me responses that show that you're not paying attention to me. Many times that woman will begin to hold back. But so he has to show that he's ready. This thing is a matter of life and death. I'm ready for you. He puts his ears down. He goes out at least to refresh that marriage again. He will now have to go out of his way to begin to restructure and remodel things. I'm not saying the woman too is all, is very unlikely that she's all perfect, because we know that these things, it takes two to tango. So, but the onus is on him right now because he's the one who wants it back. So he has to demonstrate that he's ready. And before long, things would be good again by God's grace. That's what I'll say at this
Thank you so much. That I like it. I'm still gonna wait for. No, you can't take it off. You can't take them off.
My husband wants to say something.
Yes, so he has to say something.
My iPad.
Yes, I want to hear from the male perspective. But I like the fact that you said it, that
I mean, well done, sis.
Communication.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. When I heard the case of Lara and my disposition was, look, it was by choice. I mean, all Uju told Lara, and Fuluke said I should not be insensitive. She felt free to tell Lara everything she told Lara, and she was happy with it. And I think our sister made the point. When 20 years after, you didn't feel like telling her any longer, it must be that there's a shift in the stage of life. Something must be going on in the life of the person that was talking and they want to talk again. But again, it's by choice, it's not a problem. But I agree with Fuluke that they should discuss. But you can't force the other person to change. If that's the other person, that's who they are. You then have to decide whether you can live with it or not. So it's a bit different from a marriage. In a marriage, I'm not sure you have a choice. You don't have a choice in the matter. The only thing that I don't discuss with my wife is based on my training professionally. I can't be you're told to only discuss things on a need-to-know basis in investment banking. So I don't discuss clients or anything like that with her. But otherwise, in marriage, because we discuss everything and anything versus a friendship where you choose what you want to discuss and what you don't want to discuss. But well done. I'm getting blessed listening with one ear. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. She should be intentional. Uju should be intentional and she should speak up. I really like that. In relationship, there's always two ways. You have to speak up. Assuming the worst of the other person is never right. And I agree. But before Pastor Sani goes away, I need to ask you, because I can hear his wife just shouting, now you want to talk. I beg, I don't want to talk. What is he going to do? I know he has to be intentional, and all that, but what if she rebuffs and she pushes him away? What can he do? We don't have too many men on the platform, so I'm glad that, too many married men on the platform. I'm glad that you're here.
Thank you, operator. So, were you asking that with relation to the marriage or to the friendship?
No, to the marriage. You know what? I can hear his wife saying, and that's typical because she's done this for nearly 20 years, trying to make him talk. Or maybe not 20 years. Maybe she started shutting down in the 15th year, or maybe 10th year. I don't know. I don't have the details. But now she has shut down. She's shut off, and he realizes that that's what he needs in his life. And so he's saying, is this redeemable? And the reason I'm asking is because I know that the typical male will think, and now I've said sorry now, let's carry on. And I can hear the woman say, I'm sorry, now I'm not interested. What can he do?
He has to keep at it because this is now the 20th year. If they have children, their children are growing up. They were supposed to be showing good example all along. So I think he cannot be tired of working it out and approaching the woman and apologizing repeatedly. And since the Spirit of God is involved, if he does not give up and continues to appeal and apologize to the wife, so the wife hopefully will give him a chance at some point, but he cannot quit because he offended, in quote, the woman, and since the issue has been raised, he has to appease the woman repeatedly until something is unlocked and she explains the matter. So that's the practical side, but you know that in their shoes, I will tell my wife, like I told her from day one, marriage is supposed to help the two people get to heaven. So if there's now something that becomes a hindrance to the other person, I'm likely to cite that look, this thing is supposed, we're heading for heaven. There should be no clog or hindrance. Might your reaction now be becoming a clog? A woman or a man with the Spirit of God, that should move them. It will move me. That, okay, let me not be the hindrance to somebody's ultimate destination. But the summary of what I'm saying is that repeatedly, the party cannot give up. They have to just keep at it until something happens. And when I reference the children, since you know, after some time, your children are growing up, one after the other, they leave the house.
That's right.
So it leaves two of you looking at each other. This evening, my wife told me that this house is going to be soon big for the two of us. And you know the house, it's not a house, it's a flat. So our flat will soon be too big. Of course, she was sending me a message without sending me a message. You're stuck with me. Better behave, be your best behavior, and put up your best behavior, because the two of us are here, locked down. No shaking, no going anywhere. So those are the kind of communications people have to be having. And lastly, they need to be good example for their children, because their children are watching. Soon they will make their own homes. And what legacy are they going to leave if they cannot forgive? When Jesus Christ says they should forgive 70 times 7 in a day, and one thing has happened in 15 or 20 years. We will pray that God will give us the grace to forgive and move forward. Who has not offended somebody before? Some of us are offending people every day, and God has we're offending God every day, and God has mercy. So there's need for forgiveness. Thank you.
Can I quickly say something, please?
Yes.
In addition to what my husband just said, I would like to say that this whole thing is a process. And for a marriage that is 20 years old and they haven't been talking for some time, obviously they'll be talking, eating together and all of that. But you see, women, for who we are, most of us, if you cannot get what you want in a way, in terms of communication, who to talk to, you probably may, very likely than not, be getting other channels of communication. So maybe normally you would have spent quality time with your husband, but because he's not responding, or there are things you want to talk about every day, you want him to choose this for you, you want to just gist, and you're not getting it. You spend that same time with your girlfriends, talking and all of that. So by the time the guy is now ready, Yusuf is now ready, it's like, come, okay. It's not a matter of, it's not that I'm not forgiving you. We're not talking about a particular offense that you've said you are sorry. I'm saying, okay, because of what my husband said, God says we should forgive and all of that. This is beyond that. This is a process. I've gone away. You haven't offended me in a particular thing. This is just our way of life. So I have learned to vent out in another. I have other friends. So what you're saying is you now want to take back that space that I have borrowed other people. You will do a lot too. You understand? I'll forgive you, but it's not going to happen overnight. So you have to demonstrate that you really have my time. And there are things, for women, we're very easy to please when it comes to that. There's something, you have to study that woman, Yusuf, very well. You study that woman, what does she like? I'm not talking about buying things now. That one could be part of it. But like I said earlier on, you're buying back something from her. So you have to go beyond what you would normally do, just to demonstrate that I have your time now. Okay, reduce. Gradually, she will begin to reduce that time that she's spending in other things. And she begins to divert. It's a diversion. It will begin to come down back to you. And before you know it, you're there. And you watch it, you don't want to let go again. And the tables can turn. If the woman too begins to get careless and she's not really giving the man attention, and that's where we find all this infidelity in marriage and all of that. The man also begins to look for other channels, and it's dangerous ground. So both Yusuf and the wife, I'm begging you, please get back to where God wants you to be. but it's a process and it might take a bit of time, but you can speed up the time if you do what you're meant to do.
Thank you so much. Thank you to the psalmist. God bless you. Lots of wisdom there. Intentionality. You have to be intentional. You have to speak. And I like the fact that Pastor Sani said, you know, to the man, and that's why I asked him specifically, because many times, the man just gives up and thinks, I said sorry, now what is it? But he said, you have to stay with it. And she said the same thing. She said, you can't gloss over it. She's giving that space to some other people, not necessarily having an affair or committing adultery, but she has given that space to other people that you have to reclaim. It's like reclaiming your land. And so, Yusuf, you're my friend, reclaim your land. Stay with it. Stay with it. That land is yours. Don't let anybody else take that space. Take that space back, Yusuf. You have to do that. We're rounding up very soon. We actually lost a few people. Mute iPhone. She's been trying to speak right here. Can you unmute her? We have about 10 minutes to go, so she has about 3 minutes. Can you please unmute her? Yes. We have you unmuted. I don't think she realizes that yet. Hello,
Is it me
Isi?
that you're muted?
Yes, we just unmuted you.
Oh my. Oh yeah, so I think the topic I wanted to talk about has passed though. I was just trying to say that when we talk about openness, it's different things for different people. And you sometimes find, in the case of those two friends, our parents, their relationship and their openness was easier because proximity was good for them, and there are many other things. Our generation is not as physically close as our parents were. So many of us learned, or maybe some people learned openness from their parents and are transferring it to a lifestyle that is not conducive to open. So you find you are with friends who are not interpreting your openness the same way you have it. And so I think someone already said that you have to make sure you have an open conversation to make sure you are on the same page as the other person that you think you are in a two-way relationship with. And this is friendship, not married, that I'm talking about. Because this has happened to me a few times, yes. And then somewhere along the way, it's like, this person's really not sharing anything with you. So it happens all the time, but it's not intentional. It's just for you to make sure you have an open conversation with that person. And if it's not what the person wants, so that you don't go and get hurt and all that. But I think it's sometimes it's just, many of us learned a way of openness that it's not conducive to our lifestyles now, so sometimes that disconnects and it's not intentional sometimes.
Thank you so much. It's not intentional sometimes because we learned from those that had a different setup and we have brought it into our own setting, so it might not necessarily work. Thank you so much, Isi. Thank you. We're rounding up on Let's Talk About It today. It's been an amazing conversation. I know that we have learned, receiving messages that I can't even open now, and we've learned so much. The purpose of Let's Talk About It is for us to have the opportunity to express ourselves, to learn from other people's experiences, to gain from their experiences, and to help other people gain from our own experiences. But to round up today, talking about friendship and openness. So I'm going to be just reading some of the key points that we're rounding up with today. Number one thing that I realized is that opposites can still work. So you might have a friend that is very chatty and will talk about everything, and you have somebody else that doesn't talk as much. So they can still work, but the basic thing, the foundation must be trust. Do I trust that even though I'm chatty, you're not going to use that against me, and you're not just getting the information for, talk's sake? So that's it. So we can be different, but we can still be best of friends. What I mean, best of friends, can still be that. And on the other hand, too, you're keeping quiet. Is it because you are just quiet and you keep things inside, or you've had some experience, or is it because you do not trust me enough? Like I said, trust is a foundation. Do you trust the person that you're trying to be friends with or who's friends with you? Is that why you're having an issue? If trust is an issue in your relationship, you talk about it. If it's not going to work, guess what? You can move on. You can move on without letting bitterness set in. For me, that's the biggest part of it. Don't let bitterness set into your life. It affects you negatively, your health, your emotions, and even some people begin to see physical symptoms when bitterness sets in. Number 2, be intentional. Be intentional. Like I said before, most of us just get into relationships. One way or the other, you meet somebody, that's fine. That's how it happens. But if the relationship is going to grow, you need to be intentional about it. You need to be purposeful. What kind of relationship do we have? It doesn't mean that we're going to sit down and have a notebook and define the mission and vision of the relationship. No, but it means that we're going to know that, okay, this is, you study me, I study you, and we know where we're going in our relationship. You know what is important to you. Number three for me is don't be a burden. You learn that. Don't be a burden. You have to check out the level of relationship that somebody wants with you. You might misread them and you can ask them. So there's nothing wrong with asking. So just know the level of relationship that somebody wants with you, the level of friendship that they want with you. Some people don't really want deep friendship. They just want that person that they can gist about the last soap opera. So about peripheral things. They don't care to talk about deep things. Pray together, because praying together counts. So you have to be very careful. Like I said, but I traced my steps of friendship. Be open to other relationships. There's people out there that want the kind of friendship that you have. There are people out there that value you. And I realized that too. There are people out there that, you know, they want your kind of friendship. It's not a burden on them. You're not a leash, you're not anything. They just love who you are. And they are open enough. And they are glad that you're in their life. Why don't you just look that way and be thankful to God that God has brought them into your life, okay? So please be open to other relationships. Number 5, realize that there are different kinds of relationships, not levels now, different kinds. There are some friends that you just about playthings. Some friends that you know that it's a deeper relationship. And there are some that you can talk about everything to. Figure out what kind of relationship it is and work with that. Rounding up as quickly as I can. Please do not get bitter. Somebody hurts you. Yes, it is painful. You cannot stifle your emotions. No, we're emotional beings. God has created us to be emotional beings. So recognize your emotion, agree what your emotion is. Agree, yes, I feel like this, but after doing that, find your way out of that. Find your way out of it. Deal with the emotion and be the person that God has created you to be. And number 5, whatever happens, never leave God out of your relationship. Talk to God about that friendship. Talk to God about yourself. At times, it might be that you need to do a reset. It might mean that you actually have something that you're dealing with and you don't even understand. So thank you so much for joining us on this month's edition of You Will Have True Friends, whether they are far, whether they are near, and that you value the friendship that people offer to you. Take care. God bless you. See you in August. Thank you.